You know, the sound of my pop's yell that night. Man, it still echoes in my head like a bad dream you can't shake. Sharp and desperate, ripping through the quiet suburb like a thunderclap out of nowhere. I bolted out the back door in my socks, heart pounding. And there he was, my 82-year-old pop, sprawled on the cracked sidewalk under the streetlight. These two goons in those cheap orange vests pinning him down like he was some criminal. One of them yanked his arm back so hard I swear I heard the bone crack before I even got close. Pop let out this gut-wrenching cry, clutching at it as he crumpled, his face all twisted in pain, pale as a ghost under that harsh yellow glow. Those bastards just stood there, smirking like they owned the place, flashing these fake badges that said Community Standards Patrol. But I knew right then it was all bullshit. Our little cul-de-sac in Oak Ridge Heights didn't have any real neighborhood watch or HOA crap. These were just lowlifes running a racket, preying on old folks like Pop, demanding fines for overgrown lawns or whatever excuse they could dream up. And if you didn't pay up, well, this is what you got: a broken arm and a lesson in fear. I dropped to my knees beside him, wrapping my arms around his shaking shoulders, whispering it'd be okay, even as rage boiled up inside me like a storm I couldn't hold back. Because this wasn't just some random mugging. No, these guys had been terrorizing the block for months, hitting up widows and retirees with threats, saying they represented the local association that supposedly controlled everything from paint colors to parking spots, all to squeeze out cash under the table. Pop had refused to pay their latest shakedown, something about his fence being non-compliant, and now here we were, his arm mangled, his pride shattered, and me feeling like a failure for not seeing it coming sooner. We rushed him to the ER that night, the docs x-raying and muttering about a compound fracture that'd keep him in a sling for half a year, surgery maybe, physical therapy for sure, and as they wrapped it up, Pop grabbed my hand with his good one, eyes watery but fierce, saying, "Son, don't let these snakes slither away with this. Make sure no one else ends up like me." That hit me deep, you know. It wasn't just about the pain or the bills piling up. It was the betrayal. How these frauds twisted community rules into weapons. All because they got off on the power trip, exploiting folks who'd built these homes with their own hands. Folks like Pop who'd fought in wars and raised families, only to be treated like trash in their twilight years. But family. Family's thicker than any of that crap. And that's when I called in my cousins from across town, the ones who ride with that old-school motorcycle crew out in the industrial parks. Guys like my cousin Jax, built like a tank with tattoos snaking up his arms, but hearts loyal as hell, living by a code that said blood comes first. No questions asked. They weren't outlaws or anything dramatic like that. Just working-class dudes who fixed bikes by day and cruised on weekends. But mess with one of theirs? Oh, you'd regret it. Jack showed up at my place the next morning, leather jacket creaking as he leaned on his chopper, listening to the story with his jaw clenched tight, finally growling. "This ain't revenge, bro. It's about setting things straight. These clowns think they can play king in our backyard because no one's pushing back? Nah, they heard Uncle Pete. They heard us all." We hashed out a plan over lukewarm coffee. Nothing wild or bloody. Just smart, calculated. 'Cause Jax knew from his own run-ins with shady landlords back in the day how these scams fed on silence and isolation. How they picked on the vulnerable to fund their lazy asses, avoiding real jobs by faking authority. We figured out their pattern from neighbors' whispers. They'd roll through every other Friday, truck with tinted windows, knocking on doors with clipboards full of phony violations, demanding hundreds in penalties, or else vandalism, harassment, even worse, all rooted in some twisted greed for easy money and control over a neighborhood they didn't even live in. Word got around quick that they'd be back that weekend, circling like vultures for their next haul. And this time we were ready, the air thick with anticipation as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the lawns. Then came the rumble, deep and growling like distant thunder building to a storm. A dozen Harleys thundering down the street in formation, headlights piercing the dusk, my cousins and their crew pulling up in a semicircle that blocked the whole damn road, neighbors peeking through curtains, some scared at first, whispering about gang trouble, but others nodding like they knew help had finally arrived. The scammers' beat-up van squealed to a stop, doors creaking open slow as the two creeps stepped out, eyes wide like deer in those beams, trying to act tough with their vests and papers fluttering in the breeze. Jack strode forward, boots crunching gravel, voice steady but edged like a blade. "You the ones who snapped an old man's arm last week? My Uncle Pete. Ring a bell, or you too busy counting your dirty cash?" The bigger one, this sweaty guy with a mustache that screamed, "Trying too hard," puffed up his chest, stammering, "Hey, we're official enforcers here. Got the paperwork to prove it, back off, or we'll call the real cops on you bikers." Oh, the irony in that, right? One of Jax's buddies, this wiry dude named Rico with a scar across his cheek from some bar fight years back, just laughed low and ripped the vest clean off the guy's shoulder, tossing it in the dirt. Official? This crap's from a dollar store, man. Admit it, you're just bullies shaking down grannies because you can't hack a real gig. Things heated up fast from there, the bikers closing in a loose ring, engines idling like angry beasts ready to pounce, the scammers backing up against their van, sweat beading on their brows. No more smirks, just pure panic as they realized the tables had flipped. No more easy marks, no more shadows to hide in. But here's where it got beautiful. We didn't lay a finger on 'em. No fists flying or anything Hollywood like that. Instead, Jax raised his voice just enough for the block to hear. "Folks, come on out. These punks ain't got power anymore." And they did, one by one at first, then in a wave. Mrs. Harlan from next door, who'd paid them twice to avoid eviction notices that were total fakes, shouting, "You threatened my grandkids, you scum. Said you'd trash my garden if I didn't cough up." Then old Mr. Diaz, limping out with his cane, voice cracking but strong. "Stole $500 from me last month. Claimed my mailbox was illegal. Illegal my ass." Videos started playing on phones, letters waved like evidence in court, testimonies pouring out about the vandalism, the late-night calls, how these guys had turned a quiet street into a fear factory, all for their petty empire building, driven by some deep-seated resentment against hard-working folks who'd made it without scams. We dialed the cops ourselves. Yeah, us, the rough crowd, standing tall as the sirens wailed closer. No running, just arms crossed, watching the frauds squirm as badges. Real ones this time. Clicked on cuffs for assault, extortion, forgery, the works. As the cruisers hauled 'em away, taillights fading into the night, the whole neighborhood let out this collective breath. Cheers mixing with relieved laughs. Folks slapping backs like we'd won the Super Bowl. But the real moment, the one that sticks with me, came when we rolled Pop out onto the porch in his wheelchair, arm in that bulky cast glowing under the porch light. The bikers killed their engines, silence falling heavy as they lined up, helmets tucked under arms like soldiers at attention. Jax knelt down, eye level with Pop, voice soft now. "We handled it, Unc. Promise kept, no more shadows here." Pop just nodded, a tear slipping down his weathered cheek, squeezing Jax's hand like it was a lifeline. And in that quiet, you could feel the weight lift, the community knitting back together stronger. 'Cause sometimes justice ain't from suits and courtrooms. It's from folks standing up, messy as it gets. But hey, looking back, it makes you wonder, was it right? Us taking the law into our own hands like that, even if it worked? Could we have waited for the system, or would more arms get broken in the meantime? What do you think? Vigilante style, or play by the rules? Drop a comment below, share your take on neighborhood bullies, real justice, or those HOA horror stories from your own block. Hit like if this hit home, subscribe for more real-life tales, and let's chat about it. Your stories might just inspire the next one.